All right, we're going to go ahead and get started tonight. So thank you again for everybody that came out last night, and we are continuing tonight, part 2 of our training session with Life Changers Outreach. So we have progressed through the manual last night, and they gave us a lot of good information. Tonight we're going for round 2, and they're going to give us a lot of practical tools to help us get people into drug and alcohol rehab, or just life rehab in general, any kind of addiction or life problems. So we thank them so much for coming down. If you're watching online, happen to watch online, tonight we want to be able to spend some time answering questions, so both in person and online. If you have a question in here, you can just raise your hand and ask. If you have a question online, just go ahead and post it there in the comments section. I'm going to do my best to monitor that so that we can field your questions as well. So we're looking forward to a wonderful night in learning how to set this training referral center up. So to God be the glory. But let's open with the word of prayer, and then let's welcome Pastor Andrew and Pastor Wayne once again. So, Father, we thank you for another chance just to gather together and learn how to be a beacon of light and hope to those struggling with addiction here in our very own community. God, we thank you for these men of God you have put in our lives for us to be in partnership with, to be that center that will be a light and help people, God. Thank you for the calling on their lives. Thank you for the calling on our lives in this church to help our city. So, God, we pray you will, again, guide our time tonight and give us a solid plan to be able to advance the kingdom of God right here in the Ohio Valley. We love you so much, Father, and thank you for these wonderful men. Bless them tonight in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Praise the Lord. 2 mics. We're ready to rock and roll.
Thank you again, Pastor. Before Pastor Wayne's going to get up and speak, I did want to continue talking a little bit more about networking, because networking is going to be big, and networking is something that I've become kind of passionate about, because I know that it's going to produce. You know, I've seen it's been producing. But kind of like how the scriptures always talk about seed time and harvest time, when you are networking, there's seasons before you start to see the harvest. And so you have to know that up front. I mean, you might see some instant results, but a lot of results are going to be over time. Like you'll see some people come into the program. God will use you to help get some people into the program, but then it'll be a whole year before you see them graduate. And you just kind of have to have it down in your spirit that you know that this is for the long term. It's like investing in a 401k, but you know you're investing in the long term. You're not trying to win the lottery. You know what I mean? But with risk, there's reward. Amen. And so I just want to encourage you with that don't get discouraged if you don't see instant results, because sometimes it can feel or you don't see the results that you think you should see, because it can be frustrating. It can feel frustrating from time to time, and even make you doubt and question yourself. You know, and so know that you're in for the long haul. All right. I wanted to share with you something that we did, and we're still in process of seeing results, because, like I said, we're just kind of getting our feet wet with it. As far as this thing that we're doing, which is one of my staff members, he reached out to a district attorney's office, and he called and asked if he could just drop off some literature and just drop off some information about us. And they were all for it, and we did that. I want to say a couple weeks ago. We haven't seen any results yet, because we got to eventually do follow-up. That's one thing too about networking, is the follow-up. More often than not, if you just give them some information, they're going to just probably stack it with everybody else that just gives them information. You've got to follow them up, kind of like the story of the persistent widow. You just got to keep knocking. You got to keep, hello, making phone calls. Hey, have you looked at that literature yet? just keep at it. But we're really believing that we're going to see some results from that, because as long as we keep nagging them, because that's what we're doing, what's going to end up happening is they're going to be looking at somebody's case that they got before them, and then because we're nagging them, it's going to be in their mind, and they're going to be like, you know what, maybe I ought to give this guy a shot. And maybe instead of putting this guy in prison for the 5th time, maybe we should try something different, because obviously sending them to prison ain't working. And then we also have done the same thing with their public defender's office. And we sent them out information. And what ended up happening was when we contacted them, they said, hold on one second, we have a pastor that we have in our office on retainer. And so we ended up getting to talk to this pastor. Now he's wanting to come and check the facility out, and he's heavily connected with another county that we haven't been able to reach out yet, with many pastors and many different community organizations within that county. And so once we start building a relationship with him, he's going to start spreading the word. You know what I mean? And so that's going to be a really big thing over time. Also, we brought a bunch of these. We call these pancake tickets. There's a long story why we call them that. I'm totally cool with calling it something else. All it is some quick information about who we are, what we do. It's got our website on it. It's also got our intake phone number on it. And it would be good to pass these out. But actually, what me and Pastor Wayne were saying after we talked about getting these, is it would actually be good if you guys can make something similar to these with somebody, whoever's going to be your point person here, have their main point of contact here, putting their number on it. That way, they have a wheeling contact for us,
right,
with us, and then once they contact you and you talk to them, then you can say, well, here's the number to the actual facility or whatever, right?
Right. Sounds good.
And so I think that'll be a good idea. So we want to leave these with you guys, and then you can use it as a template for you guys to make one of your own, or make bunches of your own. One thing that we do, when we go out fundraising, we take these out with us on fundraisers. This is like our biggest advertising tool. When we go out on fundraisers, we try to give them to everybody as they come out the store, especially and then if they donate, we try to encourage them to take it. And even if they say, "Oh, I don't have a drug and alcohol problem," we're like, well, maybe you'll see somebody that does, because you will. Even if because sometimes they'll try to say, "I don't have a drug and alcohol problem, and nobody in my family does either," and that could be true, but they're rare. You might be able to find a unicorn. But either way, whatever we do to try to get them in their hands, but also, I mean, we've done as much before as I had one of the directors of the West Virginia Center. He said that one of their guys stuck one inside like a slit in the gas station bathroom, and somebody took the paper and called and came into the program.
There's stories like that, like crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy, a pastor took one of those, had it on his desk, and this guy was just a full-blown alcoholic, almost died several times, and he just happened to be in his office. He says, "I think that's for me." He saw it on his desk. "I think that's for me." And the pastor said, "Yes, that is." And he went through our program. I mean, just a miracle. Wound up going to Africa with me, did an awesome job there, and he's living a successful life today. We could tell you stories like that over and over again. If you do nothing else but just hand these out, put them on bulletin boards or hand them out, you'd be doing the work of God. You'd be saving people's lives. So do that.
Yeah, like where he was saying, like a lot of grocery stores have like cork boards that you can stick these on. The other department stores have cork boards. If you go visit your doctor, throw a bunch on top of all those Time magazines that they got.
Yeah. I go to probation offices, and you see all these kind of things on probation offices, or even at, it could be a police station, it could be, all kinds of places that these kind of things you see posted. Well, we want to be out there too.
Yeah. And another thing too, and I think anybody can do this, but it might be considered more geared towards Pastor Brandon, but I don't know if Wheeling has kind of like a pastors or a ministers association. If there's something like that in Wheeling or nearby, you can always, as far as networking, meet other pastors that way and tell them about us, and then this church will become not just the point person for people within the city, but within the church community around this area as well. Like, if somebody comes into their church and they say, my niece is on, or my niece or my nephew or my son or whoever, they're on drugs and they really want some help. And they'd be like, well, I don't really have anything, but I know about Pastor Brandon White. He approached me and said he's got some connections, at his church. And so then they'll contact you that way.
Yeah. And there are like, if you are part of a service club like Rotary or Kiwanis or something like that, if you can get a chance to speak a little bit and hand those out, those are a good place to try to do that too. Now I've actually gone to those at an invitation and speak and then bring a testimony, and if you get them really turned on and they want to do it, we might be able to arrange like a little testimony service where we come in and they may only give us 10 minutes, but it would be a good opportunity as well.
Amen. Anytime there's city events going on, big city events, if we're able to bring a table and some literature, you can always contact us and we can see if we can bring that. If not, maybe we can just bring the stuff and one of you guys could sit there and do that. As a matter of fact, Pastor Bill Watson that was here last night, he's got an event that he's doing next Saturday, August 8th, and he wants me to come out there, and sit there for 4 hours with some literature and all that stuff too. And so more than likely I'll probably be doing that. And so, it's always good, just whatever it takes to get out and venture and just make it people aware, because as more people that become aware, the more phone calls you will get. All right, I'm pretty much good for now. And then
Okay. So just going on this a little bit, this kind of hit me. I've gone to a lot of seminars, and I'm sure Pastor has gone to a lot of seminars, a lot of teachings, and you get a notebook, this fancy seminar notebook, and you fill out it, and you get all excited, and you bring it home, you put it on your shelf, and 3 years later, it's still there. I hope that doesn't happen here. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the tough question here. Let me put it this way. I was thinking, I hope a lot of you couldn't sleep last night thinking about this. I'm hoping the Holy Spirit has spoken to you and saying, hey, I could do this and I could do that, and we need to try to do this or that. So I'm going to ask you, is there anybody here, and it could be somebody online if you get somebody, if you would like to just share with us some of the things that we have been talking about, and you've been thinking, yeah, I can do this, and I want to, I want to contact this person or this place, and something that you think I could at least get started this week. And it may be, I'm just going to hand one of these, we call them pancakes, these this literature to my nephew. Let's get started tonight, okay? So is there anybody here who would just like to share and say, yeah, this is something that I've been thinking about, I want to do?
I did it today. I called Celebrate Recovery leader, the leader. I'm the only substance abuse leader there, but the head of me. She called the pastor. Those pancakes would be perfect to take there. I also put a call into my prosecuting attorney in my CPS case. She wanted me to be on her team. She told me a year ago, I think you could do this. And when I finally did it, she was really excited, so I called into her. I've also talked to my sponsor's husband, who does prison ministry in the area. So I did it. My brain was going, Pastor Brain knows how I am. My brain was rolling.
Amen.
I'm their recovery kid. So my mind has just kept going about everything and all the different places I could do it.
All right, that's exactly what we're talking about here. We're hoping that you'll catch this vision and say, I can do something. Now, obviously, she's highly well connected, but that's in her area, her field. Some of you may be just a business person. I say just. You are a business person, and you have connections with the businesses around you, whatever, and you can do that. Or, just in your neighborhood, you just say, well, my neighborhood's kind of rough, and I think I'm going to take these to some of the kids in my neighborhood, and at least let them know that there's something for them. They might throw it on the ground. Who cares? But I would just like to ask, is there anybody else who wants to share or something that they thought, yeah, this is what I would like to do?
So Chris, who was here last night, he's actually picking someone up from the airport, but he'll be here later on, probably for the second session tonight. He said, what Shannon had just told me last night, that Moundsville just opened up a new detox in their hospital, free detox. And so Chris was talking to a leader in the community today, and he said that the new detox in Moundsville, which is about 20 minutes from here maybe, they are looking for a long-term residential facility to be able to recommend people to. So Chris has already got them on the brain, and that's a good start.
Yeah, and that's a common thing. I have talked to our local hospitals near us, and they're very reluctant to even do detox because they don't know what to do with people as soon as they, 3 days they're detoxed, and then they don't know what to do with them. And it's just a real pain to try to place them after that. That's where we come in, okay? So, if you have any kind of connections, whether they're at hospitals that may do a detox, or like we were talking about earlier, there was a local 30-day secular drug and alcohol program near us, and one time they called me and they said, hey, we have this guy and he's been with us 30 days, but man, he just needs a long-term program, and you guys are long-term, right? And I said, yeah. Well, that started a relationship with them. And actually it was a give and take relationship, because there were times that people didn't want to come directly to us, and I just need a 30-day program, and I couldn't convince them to come into our program, so I said, well, why don't you go to this one? But it created a relationship with them that really was ongoing for years, and I just don't work there anymore. It probably still does. When last I left, we're still working with that organization. So, if you have a connection there. Anybody else want to share? I got to quit talking. I want to know what you would like to do. Anybody have anything that you want to say? Yeah.
I would like to know whether we have a person that went through Teen Challenge, but he's in prison. Can I send these cards to prisoners there?
Yeah, as long as the prison will allow it. Okay. I know they screen mail, and they have certain people that they're allowed to mail and everything, but especially if it's a family member and you give it to his wife or his mom or something like that, they can mail it in, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if they're in prison, that means that they may have to wait till they're out on parole. He's there for life. Okay. Now you've got the networking idea, because I've done that many times where I go visit a guy in jail, and either he is or isn't interested, but he goes back to the pod, and all of a sudden I'm getting 5 calls and wanting me to come visit him. Now, of course, they all want a free ride out of jail. But I don't mind. It's like, okay, I'll do what I can to help them. I often, I will tell them, this is a tough program. It's a year-long program. And, if you're looking for a free ride out of jail, in some ways we're tougher than jail. So I have to let them know. But exactly what you're saying does happen. People go in with Bible studies and they start giving out our literature. All of a sudden, we get 10 phone calls. So you're right. As a matter of fact, I've even done that with hospitals where somebody, had overdoses, and they go in the hospital. They go visit the guy. Mom tells me, "Would you go visit him?" Yeah, sure, okay. And there's somebody in the bed next to me. Hey, can I talk to you? And pretty soon they're talking to other people. I've even done that on psych wards. So, just kind of try to expand and than talking to one person, okay? But I like it. That's what you're saying there. Anyone else? Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
I have to do a computer thing, and I said last night I went too, and it's no tobacco, no drugs, and no alcohol. And I put it on, because my director, because it's West Virginia, they want to get rid of substance and opioid use. But I never got any comment. But that's okay. It's on what I had to do today, and I wrote it out. And then my niece does the place in Moundsville, but she doesn't have an office. And the lady down there that has joined the Moundsville thing is leaving. She worked out of her car, never went into the building, but yet she could take people in there to be detoxed and things in not in Moundsville, in Glendale. So, but I didn't talk.
Okay. I didn't catch all that, but what you did remind me is, if you are on Facebook or you're on one of those things, you can put this stuff on your Facebook page and say, hey, I heard about this great program. Anybody out there? And, if you have any friends, and that's all networked, you might be surprised that somebody may say, hey, tell me about that. It might be one of your friends, and she's got a grandson or whatever. But social media is all, that's what it's all about, and you can really use that effectively.
I was going to say, if you go on your Facebook page and like our Facebook page, Ohio Life Changers, then you'll get notifications whenever we post stuff. And then you can share them on yours as well, because we like to post like graduations, and periodically we'll post pictures of the dormitory or pictures of the t-shirt shop, or pictures of the classroom, or pictures of guys doing different things. And you can always share that as well to continue to just advertise what God's doing there. Did you have a question? Okay, hold on.
So actually two things. One, I know that the fundraising is for people in the program. That's, how they make their money and whatever. But I think it'd be really awesome around here, since we don't really have a shelter in the Wheeling area, and there's a lot of people we can reach. I don't know if it'd be possible to have an information table or have our own type of fundraising outside of a Kroger or something that we could partner up. I know right now that I am going to start selling Pura Vida bracelets, that some of the profits will be going to you guys. That is something that just happened last night. So that's in the making.
See, God was working on her last night. That was my prayer.
Yeah. I posted on Facebook and everything. But I think it'd be really awesome, because I love fundraising and stuff. So. Okay.
You want to comment there, Pastor?
Well, I actually really like the idea. We could probably figure something out. I think that would be something we could definitely do, because we want to get the word out. And if you want to help us get the word out, that's great, because, the more the merrier, you know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely. We'll definitely figure something out.
Okay. Anyone else, or we'll move on? Okay. I just want to, make sure that you're thinking about this. This is going forward. Because after tonight we're going to go home, and we're busy doing what we do. We're just hoping, praying that you will take this ball and run with it, okay? And I guess really when we were talking about this, it's like we could train you all this, everything. Without this networking thing, you won't have people to send to us. I mean, that's the key, is making those connections. And, for some people, that's really hard, and I know you might think this is hard to believe, but for me, it's hard to do. Hard for me to go up and talk. He can talk to anybody. But, I just learned, hey, I want to help people. And I'm going to have to be more bold, and I'm going to have ask the Holy Spirit to give me a little more boldness, and just, I'm going to make this call, and yeah, it's the chief of police or whoever, but God's leading me to, it's the mayor, but I'm going to call him. It's like, if God leads you to do it, do it. You never know what's going to happen. You just really don't know what's going to happen.
I did want to comment. You may get, I can almost guarantee you will get people who will probably ask you, why would you want to send them out? Why are you sending them to Akron? Why aren't you trying to get them better here in Wheeling? You probably will get some kind of question like that. And I mean, there's probably a lot of different answers you could use, but one of the ones that we like to use, especially when we're out fundraising, this is what I tell people, because sometimes people get upset that our table's set up and we're not in that town. We tell them, you know, sometimes it's really good for them to get out of their environment, you know, because it helps minimize temptation. Because there's, like, I'll be honest with you, in Akron, I think we haven't had anybody from the city of Akron actually graduate the program, you know.
Because they run.
Because they're so close, all it takes is a bad day. You know, I mean, we had one guy who was in the program, he could see his dad's house from the center. And a lot of times they end up being like, forget this, I can just go home. You know, it makes it a lot easier. We had a guy at the Tennessee Center who was from that town. He said his drug dealer was 3 houses down from where the house was. So you get them out of their environment, you get them farther away, you eliminate a lot of that. If they have a bad day, they might finally decide they need to learn how to push through it, as opposed to, you know what, screw this, I'm going home.
All right. So I want to kind of give somewhat of an outline of the rest of this evening. We would really like this to be a little bit less us talking, and more questions or comments from you, because I find that's going to be more beneficial to you. But I just want to kind of give you a general outline of what I'd like to do here, and that is, you might say there are 3 phases of dealing with people. You know, I don't like to use the word drug addicts and alcoholics. I like to use the terminology people with life-controlling problems. It doesn't sound as bad, but also it's because that's what it is. You know, we deal with all kinds of problems, and not just drug and alcoholism. So, you know, that's what we're reaching out to, people whose lives are just so messed up they can't live a normal, responsible lifestyle, and we are there to help rescue them out of that lifestyle and change that around. So the first, and we also call, you know, we don't call these people clients or patients or anything like. We call them students. Okay, they're disciples. Okay, so we you know, that's just our terminology. So the first phase is preparing the student to come in the program. So we're going to talk about that, and that's probably going to be almost the whole evening of how to prepare somebody to come in. You know, once you connect with them, how do you get him to come into our program? Okay, and actually that's a big, long process. I have told many people that half the work is done before they even come through our door. And, you know, it's like they don't believe it. Like, this guy's a mess. No, half the work is done by you or mom or whatever. And so you got a lot of work to do, and we're going to talk about that, okay? And like, really? Yeah. It's a lot of work to get a person just convinced that they need help, okay? So that's almost all what we're going to talk about tonight. But the second phase is, what do you do once they're in the program? Like, well, what is your role while the student is in the program? Now you may think, well, he's there, I don't know. Well, I'm going to tell you. Okay, we may not spend a lot of time doing it, but I'm going to tell you what your role is once they're in the program. The third phase, which we're probably not going to talk about tonight at all, and that is, what do you do when they're done? What we call aftercare. Because that's just as important as getting them in the program. You know, we could get them saved and changed and everything like that, and they come right back in their old environment and just fall flat on their face. And that's going to be really big. But even if you get somebody in our program tomorrow, that's going to be at least a year from now. So we're not too worried about that tonight, and then we'll just do that some future time, okay? But if you want to talk a little bit about it, if we have time tonight, we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But those are the 3 main phases that you will be involved with this ministry, okay? All of which are very, very important. You cannot not have one of those. In other words, once they're in the program, it's like, oh, okay, I can forget about it. No, not at all. Or once they finish, you think, oh, well, he's all changed and ready and goes to church, he'll be fine. No. You know, it's a lot of work when they're finished. So we'll talk about that. All right? So let's just jump in there. And this is kind of all over the boards. I don't have any real outline to this. We're just kind of going to talk at it. And then if you have a question or comment about it, we'll get to it. The first thing about getting a student in the program is convincing then they have a problem. I mean, it could be obvious to you, obvious to mom, obvious to the judge and everything, and they're like, I don't have a drug problem. I'm not an alcoholic, I just drink a little bit. You know, we call it denial, okay? So a big part of our job, or your job, is to convince them that they have a problem, and they have a big problem. And the second half of that thing is convincing them they need to do something about it, and they need to do something big about it, like go in a year-long program. That is a hard sell. I mean, that is really hard, because almost everybody says, well, I could just do this 21-day program. I can just do a detox. And they do. And they do it, and they come out of detox, and they're feeling pretty good, and hey, I got this. I don't need this program. Or they go to a 30-day program, and you know, it isn't to knock 30-day programs. They cost a lot of money and everything like that. But you know, it took them 10 years to develop this problem. 30 days isn't going to do it. Now, most programs they do. They, you know, if it's a 30-day program, they want to enroll them in an aftercare program and all that stuff. We understand that. But I've had so many people who run these programs say, this guy needs a year program. He needs to come to your program. And I'm convinced of that. You need to be convinced of that, you know, 30 days isn't, for a lot of people, just isn't going to cut it. Okay? If they insist on doing it, then assist them get into one of those programs. But I'm sold on our program. I've been doing it all my life, all my adult life, and I see the results. I see long-term results, and that really is our goal. Okay? So how do you do that? I'm going to start out with Ephesians 6, 12 and 13. A lot of you know this, but I'm going to read it in a way how it applies to us. Ephesians 6, 12 and 13 says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. That's the problem. Okay? I might offend some people, but the problem isn't an alcohol gene. The problem is, you know, I mean, certainly environment and how you were raised and all those things are extremely important factors. But as Christians, we know that there's a devil. We know that there are spiritual forces. Now, for some people, you know, those spiritual forces deal with it. This is against all of us. You know, like I said, I never had a drug or alcohol problem, but I know this is real in my life. I know that, you know, Satan is attacking me and trying to destroy me. It just, in my case, it's this way. In an alcoholic's case, it's that way. So what we really are doing is we are coming alongside these people and helping them fight this battle, because we are Christians. And we believe in the power of prayer, and we believe in miracles, and we believe that we have authority over the spiritual world, and that's what we are doing. Now, we may not always know exactly how to do that, but that's number one, that we realize that this is a spiritual battle, that Satan is trying to steal, kill, and destroy these people through drugs and alcohol. And that's we're coming alongside to help them in that battle. Okay? That's where really, you know, sharing the gospel with them, salvation comes in. That's why it's really important to start out with sharing the gospel and getting them to understand and getting them to pray a prayer of salvation. They may be half drunk, half high. That's okay. We do it anyway. You know, you may, later on, they may not remember it, and you remind them and everything, but at least get that spiritual battle started, okay? And it's going to be a long battle. For some of you, it's going to be a real long battle, but that's what we're doing. That's why you need to stay prayed up. That's why we mentioned that. You know, it's not just, well, I'm a Christian, I should have daily prayers and everything like that. Now you're entering a battle. Now you're doing what God has wanted you to do all along. I mean, some of you have already been doing that, I understand. But as Christians, that's what we are supposed to do. We're supposed to be going out there making disciples. Well, those disciples are often going to be people with drug and alcohol problems. And I think by the fact that you're sitting here, you're saying, I'm one of those that are called to help those people. You know, when I first started getting into ministry, I didn't know. I thought I would be a missionary or a mere pastor. No, I thought I'd be a pastor. I didn't know. And God put on my heart to work with these people, and He never let me go. That's called to calling. And I hope that all of you have at least somewhat, not full time, but some calling that says, I have a burden for these people, and I want to help them. And this is, you know, I may not be able to do a lot, but I can do what I can do, even if it's just hand out one of these, our literature, okay? But you're in the spiritual battle with us, and do battle with us. Now, the question often has come to me from people is like, well, is drug addiction or is alcoholism, is that a sin? And I don't even know how to answer that question. You know, it's a life-controlling problem. Satan uses it. You cannot be an alcoholic or a drug addict unless you lie, steal, manipulate, con. It's impossible. You cannot be one of those things. So I kind of focus on not the behavior itself as a sin, it's all the behavior around it. You know, people are lying and stealing and conning and manipulating their parents and society and everything like that. I don't condemn them for that. I had a mom tell me one time, I shouldn't say, I have moms tell me this all the time. The guy's in our program, he's, well, basically he's a good boy. And he just stole, he just hit this other guy, he stole this, and he's in the program, and he's doing all these things wrong, and he was out there stealing from people, and you're telling me he's basically a good boy. And finally, one time a mom said that to me, and I thought, you know what, she's got a point. That, you know what, he might have started out being a really good kid, because I've heard this happen many times, where this guy's a good kid, going to church, doing all the right things, and gets into his teens and just winds up hanging around with the wrong kids and smoking pot, and all of a sudden he's stealing from mom, taking money out of her purse, getting DUIs, doing all this stuff. This stuff makes a liar out of you, okay? And our goal really is to help pull them out of that. So, if you will find that they're going to lie to you, they're going to manipulate, they're going to con, they're going to do all those things, don't get excited, expect it, okay? When I first started, when I started with Teen Challenge, I was so naive, it was ridiculous. Somebody told me they got a DUI and needed to get counseling. I said, well, what's a DUI? I didn't know, and here I was working in Teen Challenge. And for the months and months I'm working in Teen Challenge, and I thought, why is this program so long? They just need to get saved and everything's going to change, right? I wish. And it took me a long time to realize. And then I saw the staff talking kind of tough at these guys and being, what I thought was harsh and everything like that. And I thought, why? I thought these people were Christians. And I'm working in the ministry. I thought these people were Christians, and look at the way they're talking. Well, I learned. I realized this is what they need: tough love. They need us to be, to tell them the way it really is. See, there's a difference between harsh and tough. There's, we had to just tell them the way it is, and what the rules are, how it's going to be. I'm the boss, you're not. Because we're trying to break through all that manipulation. We're trying to break through all the lying and all those things. We're trying to break through that denial. It's a spiritual battle. Just to get them to come into the program, you have to break through some of that. Okay, we got a hand up here.
Okay, so coming from someone who is very naive to this, the Lord has just placed this on my heart, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say to these people because I've never been through this. But I know that He is going to give me the wisdom. Absolutely. And He's gonna lead me through it.
Right.
But seeing that I have never gone through what they have gone through, and you're giving them tough love, how do they respond how are they going to respond from someone who has never been through that before? Do you know what I mean?
You have an answer? I mean, I have an answer, but I don't want to do all the talking
Well,
here.
I do, but it's basically something that you've said.
Oh, okay,
So-
go ahead, say what I said.
Something that he said, and it was really profound, is that, person with a background of addiction that's wanting to get free, they don't, let's see, how did he say it? He said, you have what they need. You know what I mean? Which is a relationship with Jesus, and you're already walking in freedom. That's what they need. You know, they may, because I've had that come up before too, where people are like, this person's never been an addict. How do they, what are they going to tell me? And it's like, they're going to tell you how to be free. They're going to tell you about Jesus. They're going to tell you about the one that makes you free. That's what you need. They have the solution. You are the problem. They have the solution.
What God really spoke to me through that is, one, because I was so naive and everything, I started asking myself, why am I even here? Why I must have missed God. I should go be that missionary or something. However, I would have had the same problem there too. You have the same problem as a pastor. What do you do? Both my wife and I both grew up in the church. We're very naive, never used drugs or alcohol. My wife started a ministry in a girls' juvenile detention center, and there were several other ladies that went there, and they were all in the same boat. And this one girl came up to him just really with an attitude and said, "Why are you here? Why don't you go back to your husbands? Why don't go back to your house? You don't even understand our situation." She just was really and one of the other girls, it was like, I think it was God, but one of the girls looked at her and said, "I don't want her to relate to me. I want what she has. I want a husband. I want kids. I want a home." And that spoke to me, even though I wasn't there. My wife just told me when she got home. I thought, that's it. We are just giving them the gospel. We're giving them the truth. I don't need to go to a bar. I mean, tell you, over the years, there are many times I think, boy, I wonder what it would have been like if I actually had a drug problem or an alcohol problem and understood, because everybody I work with, him and everybody else I work with, they're all products of the program, and I'm not. But they're all my best friends, and I enjoy them more than anybody. But it's like they need both, I guess, is the answer. You just come from where you're coming from, and you know what? When they get in the program, then they can talk to him. And so we work together. We're there. So you just share with what you know, and you will learn along the way what to say and what not to say. Is that an answer?
That's fantastic. I wanted to. There was a couple of things I wanted to piggyback that you had
Okay.
commented. One of them was, of course, now I'm forgetting about the praying. That's actually probably going to be the next thing. Once you get them in, praying for them to stay is probably going to become the next thing, and that's going to be.
That's the second section I was.
Oh,
talking
it is?
about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop talking about that then.
Yeah, I mean you can, but you're jumping the gun here, bud. Okay.
But I wanted to share too.
But praying them into the program is correct.
Yeah, praying them into the program, praying them to stay. That's a whole nother battle that will go on probably the whole 12 months. But anyhow, we'll probably tag team that one. I got a feeling, because I got a lot I want to say on that. But I wanted to talk about that naivety that you're saying. You'd be surprised how people can, people that go through the program can become naive to some of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you a short version, but after I'd gone through Teen Challenge, there was I went with this guy one time. I needed to get some stuff from like Kmart. And long story short, he took me on a dope run as we were getting what I needed at Kmart, and I had no clue. And then until one day somebody said, "I think that guy's getting high." And then it was like, then it all clicked in my head. It was like, oh my gosh, how did I not realize that? I've only been clean a year. How did I already forget all that? So people, I mean.
In other words, God washed your mind so
Yeah.
much and that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so what I was talking a little bit about denial and everything, just to explain a little bit what denial is that this person builds up a wall of defense that says, I'm not a drug addict, I just smoke pot a little bit, and they really believe their own lie. They're really truly deluded. that they really believe all I do is smoke pot. Okay, so last night I went a little heavier than normal. Well, that was last night, the night before, the night before, the night before, but they don't want to admit that to themselves. Everybody else sees it, but they will deny that they, all I do is smoke a little pot, but the truth is they're also, already started crack cocaine, or they already, drink too much or whatever. That is so common that they're lying to themselves, and they build up all these excuses, and they have ready answers. We know that Satan is the father of lies, and he's feeding them lies. Okay, that's where the battle is. He's feeding them lies, and he is giving those lies. I have heard secular programs say, well, they're not really lying. They're lying. Okay, I don't like giving them the excuse, well, it's part of the disease or whatever. They're lying. But I'm also not judging them. I don't want to pour condemnation on them. I don't say, you're a liar. This is kind of the way I do it. Now, there's a whole different thing called intervention and everything, and I don't want to really get into that right now. But what you can do is, really what that is you're breaking through the lying with the truth. Okay? And you just give the truth, even if they say, well, that's not true. I'll give you an example. Where we're working with a prospective student, you really need to start working with mom or wife or kids and you start talking with them. One is you want to get them saved too. You want them to get on board with you and praying with them and coming to church and all those things. But you're talking to them and you get information. Like, he just got his second DUI last night. And mom found, all this pot in his room, and he said that he was holding it for a friend, and all the lies that go with that. And then you find these empty bottles in the car, and the money missing out of the purse. And it doesn't take long talking to mom or wife or whatever. You just got a whole list of things. I write it down. They don't always know that, but I'm writing this stuff down. Okay, because I'm kind of building a case. Okay, so that I can kind of confront him of this behavior. Now, one thing you really need to do, and that is ask mom. I always say mom because dads are oblivious. I mean, I'm sorry, mom is the one who loves them. It happens that dads do, but I always talk with mom. I mean, you talk with dad too, but he's like, out of the house, you're gone. Tough love, let's get out of here. And that's generally the case, but not always. But talk to him and say, tell me about this, but I need your permission to talk to him about this. You got to get their permission, because if you go and say, hey, Johnny, your mom says this, it's going to come back on mom so bad, or wife so bad, he may even beat her up. Okay, and almost always they'll say, yeah, you can. And I said, well, is that going to make him mad? Yeah, it will. But we can't go on living like this. And almost always they'll say, yeah, go ahead and tell him. And if I can get information from other people, I will, whether it's law enforcement or whatever. The more information I have, I can use to confront. Now, there's a saying, it's called carefront rather than confront. And I like the carefront, which means I don't like to say, accuse. Well, your mom says this, and your mom says this, and he's saying, no, that's not the way it is. I just like to ask questions. Hey, John, do you have a drug problem? Well, no. Do you smoke pot? Well, yeah, but there's nothing wrong with smoking pot. Oh, okay. Do you ever try anything else? And I know all along he's using crack. He's doing all these other things. And so, you ever try it? Well, maybe I tried a little bit. They usually will give you a little bit. And I don't argue with them. If you argue, you're going to lose them. What you're doing is you're giving them something to think about. You're giving the Holy Spirit something to talk to them about. Okay? So this is a process. Everybody needs to say this is a process, because it's a process that could be a year long or more. But I just say, hey, okay. I say, now, what's this I hear about that you got another DUI? Oh, well, I was railroaded and everything like that. You know, you could go on, and I just go, and I kind of let them know, I'm not sure I believe you. But I don't say it. I don't say you're a liar, or you're lying to me, or anything like that. I'm just letting their own conscience bother them, or the Holy Spirit bother them, okay? And it can be a process that may be a long time, but then, you know, and then it can be a week later, 2 weeks later, and he gets fired from his job, or you know, dad wants to kick him out of the house and everything, and pretty soon you don't even have to actually get the whole truth out of them. Actually, I want to tell you this about denial. Denial, they come in the program, they are in denial. They're in 6 months in the program, they're still in denial. This is a process that takes a long time. So you're just cutting through enough denial to get them to realize, maybe I need help. Okay, you're not going to change them. It's going to be the Holy Spirit, and it's going to take a long time. Isn't that true? I mean, you can be sober for 6 months and you're still dealing with denial, right? So we're not going to cure them, and we're not, you know, we certainly don't, because we run into it all the time. You're just trying to cut through it enough to get them to realize, well, maybe, yeah, I think I need that program. Tell me more. That's all we're really looking for. Do you have a comment on what I have to say, or you?
As Celebrate Recovery, the one thing that we say is, like you were talking about, insanity is doing the same thing over and over. Insanity is living with the truth, which is Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that part, and I have so much, but I understand, and it's true. You know, when I got rededicated that day, and on Mother's Day last year, and it was like a switch turned off on me, and all he said was, any mothers out here that want to get rid of hurt, guilt, regret, and I put my hand right up, and it was a switch. They can all tell you they saw it that day, and it's not that easy. I mean, it was still a process and it's still
Right.
at times, you know what I mean? So I understand the denial thing. I mean, I don't use anymore or anything like that, but I mean, just to fight in the enemy, it's a battle. It really is a battle.
It is. It is. And I think you said about the switch, you never know when that switch is going to flip. And you're just part of that process, and you're just there for them when all of a sudden, boom, I think I need help. Maybe I need to do this. And often it happens when tragedy hits their life. They got fired, or the wife says, I'm leaving. You know, until you go into that program and get help, we're gone. You know, and a big one is they get caught with some kind of crime and they got to go to court. All of a sudden they're calling us when they got to go to court, and it's like, okay, I'll take you, whatever. You know, you're going to make it difficult because hopefully the judge will go along with this, but it takes some kind of tragedy. But see, if you are there with the information, you're there kind of walking them through it, one of those days that switch is going to go off. And actually, there are many switches. I mean, I think there's still switches that guys are in their program 6 months and all of a sudden, boing, you know, like, wow, you know, that's me, that's what I did. And they were denying it, whatever that one behavior was, you know, like, I'll give you examples. So many of our students have been sexually abused, and they're in denial about that. And they're in the program for 6 months, and we're talking about sometimes something unrelated, and all of a sudden this guy's crying and bawling and comes to the altar, and what's up? And he says, I think I was sexually abused. And you know, and we got to pray with them and pray them through that and work with them on that. Those switches go off all the time, you know, and that's really the Holy Spirit that's doing it. We're just in the battle right next to them. And the more they see, the connection is crazy. You know, you think, well, they got to, you know, it's kind of like what she was saying, well, I have to understand it. No, they just know that this lady cares about me. And she never used drugs and everything, and she's 40 years older than me, but for somehow she just cares about me, and she's showing love to me, and she's there for me, and she's trying to talk, and all of a sudden, he's crying to you rather than, his somebody who is their same age or whatever. God will use you because you're a Christian, you're committed, and you're called. Okay?
Yeah, I wanted to go back because, I don't know why I can't seem to leave this alone, but I know maybe because there's probably a lot of people in here that maybe didn't have a drug problem, just like Pastor Brandon's wife was saying. But I wanted to just reiterate too that drug addiction is just the surface problem of another issue. You know what I mean? People use drugs to mask the pain from something they've experienced. And a lot of people that don't have a drug problem, we tend to figure out how to deal with it other ways. God works us through it or whatever. So, you might not feel like you can relate to have an addiction problem, but you might know how to relate to what it feels like to be abandoned or to be abused or to be
your parents divorced when you were 14 or
parents divorced, or whatever those issues could be. You can relate in that way. We actually have at our Tennessee Center, we have several people on staff that never had a drug problem at the Tennessee Center, and maybe at the West Virginia Center too. I'm not sure, but definitely the Tennessee Center. And I wanted to also chime in too on another aspect of denial. What he was talking about was maybe they might finally start admitting they have some type of a problem, but they'll look in the program and they'll see how they'll find somebody that was way more, that they felt like was way more jacked up than them, and be like, well, I was only using a little bit. These guys here, they're perma-fried. I don't need to be around here. I need that's another aspect of denial. I just felt like.
Right. In other words, they'll always find somebody to compare themselves, and I'm not as bad as that guy. Rarely have I met one of our students who said, yeah, I was the worst guy. I was the crazy guy. But almost everybody is, well, I can always compare and I'm not as bad as him, and he's the one who really needs your program. I don't need it. Hey, I'm talking to you. You need this program. Yeah, he needs it too, but you just got to break through that.
I was that guy that all my drug buddies said I needed to go into a program.
But see, probably at the time you didn't really think of it. I mean,
I just agreed and was just like, okay, let's keep going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, what we're saying right here is a mouthful. That's a lot to break through that denial. And like I said, it could be years. But I think you can do that with information. You can do it with the truth. You don't argue it. You just say, well, this is, and especially if it says, well, but your mom said this. Oh, well, it wasn't me that stole it was my brother. Oh, okay. And I just don't argue that. They know it's the truth, and that's the important thing. They know, yeah, it was me that sold it. I mean, they even their own mind are trying to lie to themselves. But deep down, they know that they're the ones that took the money out of mom's purse, and they know that they really were drunk last night when they got the DUI, and the cop wasn't just picking on them, and all those things. And so I just like to just throw the truth out at them, just nice and easy. And okay. And if you get an opportunity, pray with them. And I just say, God, you know the truth here. You know what's really going on here. And I just ask you, God, that you open up Johnny's eyes to what's really going on here, and it takes time, but God will break through if you're patient. Okay. I think I'll just go to another aspect of this, which is huge, and that is working with parents and family members and wives and children of these people. Because most of the time, they are what we call enablers. Now, some of you understand what enabler is, but I think a lot of people understand the concept a little bit, but we were talking all the way up here. Enabling goes so deep and so whatever that people don't realize. I've known Teen Challenge staff, I've known pastors and everything who are enablers, and they don't even realize it. Okay, the first time I was confronted with the idea of enabling. And just to give you a real quick definition, if you're not that familiar, enabling just means this person has a drug or alcohol problem, and in your thinking, you're helping that person, and actually you're enabling to keep them in their lifestyle. You know, maybe you guys can give me some examples, but an example would be, you know, he's using all his money to pay for drugs and everything, and his rent is due, so I don't want him to get kicked out of his house, so I'll pay his rent. That's enabling. That means I'm making it possible for him to continue in his self-destructive lifestyle by paying, because I don't want him to get kicked out, and I certainly don't want his little baby to go without formula, so I give him the $400, which he turns right around and buys the crack with. You want to have some examples of that?
Yeah, actually, that was a great one. I was thinking about somebody who told me they actually used to do that. They would, when it got time to pay the bills, they would call their mom up and say, your grandkid's about to go, is about to live in a house without power in the winter, because him and his wife, they blew all their money on drugs.
Okay.
But also another one I was thinking about, actually we were talking about this person on the way down here. A guy was in his 50s, still living in his parents' house, and you know, their parents, he was constantly like stealing stuff from them, and you know, they still kept him in the house. Whenever he would come into a program and he would leave, he would contact him and say he needed some money, and they would immediately wire him money. Even when the siblings are like, quit doing it, you're assisting him, they go see counselors, and the counselors will tell them they're enabling, and I would talk to them and they would tell me that they know that they're enabling, but they can't stop themselves from doing it, because even though Johnny Boy's, you know, in his 50s and they're, you know, getting close to their 80s, he's still their baby boy, you know, and they don't realize it, but they don't realize it, but they're actually killing him.
Now that's an extreme example that we both know, and it's a guy we both love and everything,
Yeah.
but he is on self-destruct mode, you know, as long as we've known him, and the really problem is his parents. If his parents would do what they should, he would not be able to do what he's doing. You know, pure and simple. I mean, they had to move out of their house and sell their house because they lost so much money, and move in with their daughter because they lost so much money on this guy, and yet they won't stop. You know, they just keep doling out the money because they think, you know, we got to help him out. We don't want him to go without food. We don't want him to be kicked out of his apartment or whatever.
Yeah, let me testify a little. Let me be a little bit personal. You know, my mom, she was an enabler for me when I was a teenager, really bad. At least I thought it was really bad until I met that guy. You know, I stole stuff from her. I mean, nothing major, huge, but I was stealing stuff from her. I was definitely stealing money. You know, landlords were calling because I was raising up a ruckus all the time, and cops were coming to the house, you know, and all these things. And one day I came home, you know, after, and you know, like I said, my mom enabled me. For the longest time, she thought I was just like, you know, smoking pot socially, and she actually thought it was okay. And she used to let me smoke, and she would let me drink from time to time, because she just thought it was like a phase, like, you know, because she was not a, you know, she didn't have an addictive personality, and so she just thought it was something that was going to pass. And eventually she realized it wasn't, and when she tried to reel me in, it was basically too late. I basically was wild. But one day I came home there was a big huge trash bag, and on the door was a note that said, "Don't even knock."
Best thing that happened to you.
It was the best thing that happened to me, honestly. Because it wasn't until I was homeless and hadn't showered for a few weeks and was starving to death that I thought, you know what? Maybe I actually do have a meth problem. You know, I mean, all the crazy stuff I was doing up to that point, I didn't really believe I had a real problem. I thought I could stop anytime I wanted. But once I was homeless for a while and I smelled like a rotten onion, then I thought maybe I need to do something different with my life.
And see, that's usually what it takes. And sometimes working with moms and wives and everything, you don't just say, hey, kick that bum out, because it's not going to work. But you kind of approach it slowly and everything. I don't believe in divorce, but I do believe that a wife should not have to put up with this, where they're stealing the family money, and kids are hungry and they're going to get kicked out of the house, and they got this bum of a husband. I don't want to say that because they're all God's children, okay? But she needs to say, either you go or we go, but I'm not going to sit here and watch you kill yourself. Your kids aren't going to sit here and watch you kill yourself. When you go and get help, and you finish the program, not halfway through, you finish this program, then we'll talk about reconciliation, and and that's where pastor and all you do the aftercare, when it's time for him to come home. But that's usually the situation. It's usually when mom or dad or wife says, you're out of here, or they wind up in front of a judge and they're looking at, 5 years in prison. That's usually what it takes, is it wakes people up. And they need that wake-up call, and it's got to slap them in the face. And the more we enable them, the less, the worse they get into their addiction and never seek help, like our friend. Jason, he's been in and out of our programs all this time, and it's just mom and dad are the worst problem. Now, the reason I bring that up is because when I first went to a seminar and really heard this concept and everything, I was offended, because they were talking about, well, anybody can be an enabler. A pastor could be what do you mean, a pastor, a minister? We're not. They were right. We can be, I've seen pastors, they just buy and they take care of, and they do this, and they're all, people. I would not be surprised if somebody in this room is enabling somebody and you don't even know it. Now, that's an extreme example, but it can be very small things. Like, I remember I was guilty. I was working in Teen Challenge for a long time, and there's a guy who went through our program. He became our cook, and then he took an outside job, and he was a chef, and it was a good chef at a restaurant. And they were calling me and saying, where is this guy? Is he? And I found myself starting to make excuses for him. And I was like, well, maybe he's back using drugs. In my mind, but I didn't say that, and I really couldn't say that to them. But I was like making excuses for this guy. Well, the truth was, he was back on drugs. And if we make excuses to employers or whatever, it's wrong. If even $10, or I'll buy him a meal, or I'll put him up in a motel for a night because he's homeless. He needs to be out on the street. Unless it's 10 degrees out, he needs to be out on that street and feel.
Yeah.
The biblical example is Paul. It's the same principle, different situation, but Paul says, throw the man out. He's talking about a man who was involved in immorality in the church, but he said, throw the man out so that Satan would have his way with him. And then in 2 Corinthians, it appears that it worked. Now, there's a discussion about that, but it appears that it worked. Okay, but that is an example, a biblical example of you got to get tough and say, no more, we're not going to put up with this stuff.
Yeah, I just had just something pop in my head, and actually it's related to not this church, but per se, but Wheeling. Shannon had contacted me about having a guy come into the program. That was in one of her Celebrate Recovery meetings, right? And he came up there, and this is an example of an enabler. And he was there for like a couple days, maybe a week, and then he wanted to leave. I called Shannon. We tried to talk to him, and then there was somebody else at the Celebrate Recovery meeting that I talked to, because this guy had said that this guy was going to come and get him, and I told him that it was not a good idea. I gave him the same story I just gave you about my mom having to leave me stranded on the streets, and if it wasn't for that, I probably would be dead. And he didn't listen to me. He drove all the way up to Akron from here and picked him up and brought him back. And I asked Shannon how he was doing last night. She said he was doing okay right now, but first he had a relapse and he almost died, right? That very well could have been, he could have very well not made it. And as far as I'm concerned, that dude that drove him may as well have pulled the trigger.
And see, we could be guilty of that too. We got to be careful of that, okay? We can be manipulated and we can be used for enabling people. That's where the communication comes in. That's where, you know, you're working with somebody and it's like, I don't know, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. Give us a call. And we'll be happy to walk you through that and say, hey, you know, well, why don't you try this? You're doing that for the family too. In other words, you don't want to be enabling and you want to kind of educate the wife and the mom and all that stuff about. I will tell you this, when I was working in Teen Challenge, I probably counseled moms more than I did counsel students. And they're like, I mean, so many moms would call me and they'd say this, and this, and you know, and he was on pass and he did this, and this, and I'd start giving them some of these concepts about enabling and everything, and they thought I was the wisest man in the whole world, and I was just giving them basic stuff like this, and because they don't even realize that they're enabling and everything. So I say that's a big part of your role is talking with the family members and supporting them through the process of him getting help, breaking through the denial, getting, you know, using tough love. And I do want to talk more about tough love in a minute. I think we may take a break here soon, but you know, the concepts of tough love and, you know, coming to a conclusion, maybe we better tell him he's got to have to leave the house and how to do that in a responsible manner so that they, you know, I mean, the way he got it, it was in his face. I don't always say that's the best way. I mean, you know, you give them warnings, you whatever, you give them second chances, but there's only 2 chances, not 18, you know. And then there are stipulations about when they can go back in the house, but usually it's that you need to go to this program and then we'll let you back in the house, okay? So you know, that is a big part of what we're wanting you to help minister to these people. I told you, half the work is done by you. By the time they come to us, they've gotten saved, they've broken through some of their denial and everything. We can take it from there. But we really need your help to do these kind of things, because that's why this is so groundbreaking what we're doing with you, is because we really don't have that. It's just people try, they look up stuff online, or they talk to their pastor, they talk to counselors, and they get some of this information, and then they try to help their own family members. But I'm saying we're trying to help your whole community this way, okay? The people we're networking with. You have one more thing, and then maybe we'll take a break here?
Yeah, Shannon has something.
Okay.
My mom enabled me, and I would use money, spend my bill money. Then her church would help me, and her stuff, her people would help me pay for my bills. And it came down to where I was staying in a drug house. And I called my mom and I said, you know, we don't have any food. You know, I don't know what to do. And I cried to her. And she came down with a thawed turkey to feed me and everybody in the house, and a Coca-Cola, and said, this is it, I'm done, don't call me, don't come to me. And I had nowhere else to turn. And when I overdosed, there was no one to call. There was no one to call. And that's when I turned and was like, you know, the night that I got into rehab, or got into detox, they didn't have a bed for me. I was in a room. And I prayed to God, because there was no locked doors. And I didn't go out that door, because I had knelt down and prayed to God, you know, give me the strength, because the place that I was staying at was right across the street. So enabling comes from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I would say, just like you can't be a drug addict without lying, stealing, manipulating, you can't be a drug addict without at least one enabler in your life. And a lot of people have 10 of them. Their boss can be an enabler. You know, he should have fired him a long time ago, but he loves and he cares and he's trying to help them. I'll say one more thing about enabling and this whole thing of manipulation and everything. The biggest victims of being manipulated is us, Christians, because we feel that is our God-given responsibility to give him the shirt off of our back, that we're Christians and it's Jesus said it, that we should give to them and everything, but that's totally twisting the scriptures and everything. I do give people the shirt off my back. I give to this ministry. I give the Teen Challenge. I've given buku money to Salvation Army and everything. I am helping them more by helping them through these organizations. But if I'm buying them this and that and everything like that, I'm just hurting them. Okay? And we'll talk a little more later on, but there are times when, okay, you open up your wallet and you help, but boy, you better be sure you're not enabling. You better do it in the right way with some good counsel, like, is this the right thing to do? Because they use guilt on us. I cannot tell you how many times I've been told by somebody, and you call yourself a Christian. A Christian would do this. As soon as somebody starts putting a guilt trip on you, you shut the door. And you say, you know what? When you're ready to deal with this correctly and quit putting guilt, I just tell them, you're not going to put a guilt trip on me. If you think that I'm going to give you money because you're making me saying I'm a hypocrite or whatever, you are wrong. You know what game you're playing, and I know what game you're playing, so we're just not going to play that game. Okay, when you're ready for help, I'll be happy to help you. And that's what they need more than anything. So you got to get a little tough. It's true. But you will find that you will be helping people financially and all kinds in your time and everything more than you ever will have before. So it's not like you don't care, because we do find ourselves caring through our possessions and our money and our time and all that stuff. It does happen. You just got to do it in a very controlled, God-led way with good counsel. Okay? We'll take a quick break here, and we'll come back in like 5 minutes after we go to the bathroom and get a cup of coffee or some water or whatever, okay?